As I mentioned, potentially criminal matters have been identified. A spokesman for Louise Casey said that files relating to one former and one existing councillor arising from the inquiry had been passed to the National Criminal Agency. That was reported this morning by Andrew Norfolk from The Times. He's talked to us on PM before, as he was the first reporter to reveal the grooming of children in Rotherham and has been following all the developments closely. So, Andrew Norfolk, you've seen Rotherham Council up close. Why was it so dysfunctional?
I don't think Rotherham is by any means alone in being an authority in a part of the country where traditionally one party, and in the case of northern towns like Rotherham, tends to be the Labour Party, has grown so used to having very little effective opposition that it's grown accustomed to doing things its own way. One of the lines in the report describes a feeling of stepping back in time when you walked into the Rotherham Council offices. But that doesn't explain why Rotherham, way beyond any other identified part of this country, had such an extensive problem with endemic abuse of children, and as has been revealed today, to this day, is in a state of complete denial, both councillors and senior officers, of the problems they confront and the inadequacies they've exhibited.
And as we heard, the investigation's ongoing, with files being passed on for further investigation. When you started your investigation, did you ever think it would lead to these changes, the resignation of the whole council, the imposition of commissioners?
I certainly didn't begin to comprehend that would happen, and indeed I don't think it would have done had the council reacted as it should have done when we first started revealing information about more than a decade in which police and social workers had known exactly what was happening and had failed to take adequate action. They could at that point, more than 2 years ago, have turned around and said, we need to get to the bottom of this, we need to change things. That was what was happening in other councils around the country. Instead, they chose initially to try and persuade the police to hold a criminal inquiry into who had leaked more than 200 confidential documents that formed the basis of the evidence for our story. They tried to get a High Court injunction to prevent another story. The report shows that their response to the media coverage, as to Ofsted reports, as to the J inquiry findings, was symptomatic of a culture in which they either refused to recognise what was going on or knew, but remained so terrified of being branded racist because the overwhelming majority of the identified cases involved men from the Kashmiri Pakistani community, that they just were incapable of acknowledging and tackling it.
Andrew Norfolk.